All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the caching assignment. And there's some business here in the beginning that you should read. So stop the video if you're listening to the video and read that. And it talks about where caching. It can occur in your browser, in the local PC, or it can occur at some intermediate point between your local machine or the user's local machine and the web server. Right? So it could be an internet service provider that wants to reduce bandwidth consumption, so it's caching images and other large objects that don't change very often. So rather than consuming all the bandwidth for the whole length of transit, it cuts back and pushes those cached images closer to the clients and saving bandwidth that way. So that happens. So and caching is controlled in the HTTP protocol using special headers. And we're going to look at those headers today. And then we're going to look at a technique of controlling caching using etags. And this is really handy. So the assignment folder is going to end up having these files in it. Most of the files are copied over from the JSON assignment, which I'm going to do right now. And I'm using Flavio's work. I'll give him credit for that. Thank you for getting that done. And let's just check that that's working, actually. So localhost 5000, I think it is. And there it is. Make a request to load JSON. There we go. Where'd you get those? All right. Yeah, it's good. So let's see. So that's working. Now, then there's some experiments. Like, there's a website here, which is for that curl tool. And this is just their webpage, okay? And I noticed that it's a good example to look at their headers. So here's the command to retrieve that same webpage, to retrieve this webpage. I'm going to retrieve that webpage using curl. And what the heck did that happen? It's not fitting all in one space there. There it is. So this -i means give me only the headers. I don't know why it's an I, but that's what it does. Otherwise, we'd get everything if we just left that out. We just want to see the headers. And so we're retrieving this URL right here. Using this is get, means it's the protocol HTTP get message. So -x get. And that's optional, by the way. You could leave that out. The default is get. Oh, curl. URL. There it is. Okay, now look at this. It's saying 200. It's saying, okay, I got the data. Here it is. And it gives us the data. This is after these headers. After this data is sent, it then sends a blank line. And after the blank line is the HTML. But we're not printing that because I put a -i in there. So I said I only want the header information. I don't want the actual HTML. Otherwise, we get everything. So we don't want that. We're just looking at the headers. And the thing is, this etag is what I want to look at. This is like a version label. So when they change your HTML on their server, they're going to change the etag to give it a different version label. So then the next time, and I'll show you how that works here and why that's useful. Let's do that. There's when we send our browser can cache this. Actually, let me show you that. Oh, that's not it. It's Shift Alt. Got it wrong. can't remember how to do this.
Does it work?
Control J?
You just want to
Does not work. So I want to look at, oh yeah, tools, the developer tools. So here's the network. So let's go ahead and, like this is disable cache here, see that? And that's, here, disable cache while DevTools is open. So I want to take that off, but first I'm going to retrieve this and take a look at the index HTML file. See that one right there? That's the base, that's our get right there. And it returns a 200. See that? And if we look at the details, oh, there's the request header. Here's the response headers. See, it's sending us this this etag. You see, that's the same etag. See that? It's the same thing. And so the 25, right? 25 dash gzip. Oh, there's no dash gzip there. And I think the reason is, like when we sent the request, do we say we see this accept encoding? It's a gzip here. See that? That's a gunzip, I guess. And the browser also says it'll accept these other encodings. Here we didn't send that. We so we didn't tell it that we would accept the gzip encoding. So it's given us this other version of the document. Here it's sending us a version of the document. As you can see, it's got a dash gzip in there. And then the content encoding down here. See content encoding, gzip. So it gave us a compressed version of the data. We're going to look at that later on, by the way. So we'll look at that later on as well. So the thing is, now, if we turn off caching, turn on caching. So this thing is this thing should be in the cache. This object is in the cache. Oh, I just got to close it there. Okay. So this is in the cache, and let's see what happens when we reload this page. So I'm going to reload one more time. It's still sending the request. So for some reason it's not. Here are the request headers. You see if modified, if none match. See that? If none match right there. So we sent that. And the server returned 200. It should not return this. I don't know why it's doing that. So it doesn't seem to be working. That doesn't seem to be working right there. So this is not the right response. So I don't understand what's going on. So why is it sending that back? Maybe it was this setting. But I don't want to disable the cache. What does this say? Disable cache. Do I have to take this off? Get 200. I see it right here. See this not modified? For some reason it's retrieving this. The server sending the HTML, but it's given us the right results on these other things. Here's the PNG file. Look at the request headers. Where is that? I'm trying to pull that thing. Here we go. Look at the request headers. It has cached the object, and it's saying send it to me if it doesn't match this. Otherwise, let me know that what I have is the image I need to have. And so the server replies 304 not modified. It doesn't send back a 200. Here's the data. It sends back a 304 and says what you have is what I have. It hasn't been modified since the time you retrieved it originally. And then it echoes back the etag, as you can see here. By the way, this is not gzipped, right? because you don't have to. It's already in compressed format. So you could still compress it, but it's PNG is already compressed format. So we see it working there. So I don't want to go into any more detail there, but that's basically how that works. And so I'm going to skip over the rest of this. Well, you should do all these because we're running out of time. Well, I guess we could do this. Let's do this. Let's send it let's use curl. Here, it sent us the data and it gave us this as the etag. This is for the HTML code, which is uncompressed. So now I'm going to say, it looks like we need to have those quotes in there. That this is the etag. See that etag contains those quotes. Do you see that? This is not necessary, but that's what they're sending. They're sending those quotes, so we're going to send the quotes back. So, and those quotes that we send back need to be escaped because in this command line, the whole thing is a string inside these outer quotes. So the inner quotes that we want sent need to be escaped. Once again, we got to send them because they were sent to us. Those quotes are not mandatory there. They were just.
Similar to like a security key, or one has one version, the other ones are not really.
It wouldn't call it a security key. It call it a version key.
Version key.
Yeah, just hey, this is the version I have. Is that the version that I need to have? And it says yes, you're okay. 304, not modified. Or it says 200. Nope. Here's the new one. Here's the new version key that you should cache with the new one. So now when you send this, it should say it still sends a 304, and that's very good. So why would it do that? Oh, look at this. It changed the etag. Why did they just make a change right there? Oh, they have something in the content of their page that's changing, like an advertisement. See, so it's a better test to send to request like an image. That one worked. See that? They must have some advertisement, something that's changing, and it generates a different etag. Or maybe they're updating the page. I don't know. They could be updating this stuff. See any there's no advertisements on there, is there? Huh? It's a video there. So anyway, there we saw it worked. So let's move forward now. We know that stuff. And let's get caching here. Like in our application here, look, when we still don't know how to do this anymore. We used to be able to. Oh, there it goes. So here's the network. We'll disable the cache. I want caching on. So I'm going to retrieve this. Where is, oh, I'm not running the server. There it is. So localhost, we're retrieving two objects, the HTML file that's at app.html. Internally, the browser doesn't see app, it's just internally. Well, for the root request, we return that. And then the browser turns around and says, oh, you've got an embedded image in your web page. We're going to have to request that. So it sends another request for that. And you see it's caching these. But when I hit refresh, it's just sending it off again because I don't have any cache control there. So let's tell it. Let's use an etag now. So when I hit refresh, instead of sending the HTML file to the browser over and over again, let's give it the etag originally. And then the browser will send the etag when it sends a request later on. And we're going to send back a 304 not modified response without sending the data. So let's get that working. And so here's an example where we can generate an etag. And I'll talk about this code here. looks like inside this root module. This is where we read in that app.html file. See, we read it, read file, and then we store it. We call it the body. It's the body of our message. The reason I use the word body is the HTTP message body. It's the body of the message that carries the data. It's separate. There's headers and body. And so now, what we're going to do is that when we send this reply message, we're going to add an etag header. But to make that work, we need to generate an etag, and I'll just show you an example of a typical convention, and that is to create a hash, a secure hash, not for security purposes, but because we want it to be unique. When we change the document, we want a new etag generated. So we want something that's cryptographically secure. We call it a secure hash function. So we use this SHA hashing function, which is very common, and that's in this crypto module. So crypto is the built-in module in the node. Notice there's no / in there. It's just and we're going to call this function once. So we don't need to hang on to this reference. Like up here, this HTTP module, we're going to call functions on that over and over again. Actually, we're not. So we could have put it out there too. So it didn't matter actually. I'll just leave that there for now. So this creates a hash here, but it's kind of like it's empty. It's sort of an initialized object which represents the hash, but we haven't really set the hash value inside of it yet. So this is where we do it. We call update. We pass in this buffer, so that gets passed in here. This will be the data. We're going to pass in the HTML codes. We're going to pass in this body object. We're going to pass it into the function, and we're going to say, we're going to pass it into this update function and say we want I don't know. I think it's a binary versus. I don't know what the other setting is there, but this update function is going to look at the data as just a sequence of bytes, and that's good enough for us. I think that's what binary means here. So we get this this object, this SHA sum object that we built up here. We sort of initialized it, and then here is where we tell it to go ahead and compute the digest and generate it as a string of hex digits. I think that's what it means. And so this will generate that digest, generates the hash value itself, and as a string of hex digits, and that's what we return. So that's where we're going to get the string. So we're going to end up doing it, down here. Do something like this. We're going to call it like the etag equals this function. So we'll have this etag, and then of course we'll need to store the etag. So after we read the data and we got it, we're going to generate its etag, and we saved that, and then we're going to need to send it in here. So I'm just going to do that here. So it's probably, I'm just going to guess at this, it looks something like this. I'm going to have to make some corrections, because I probably didn't get it right. Now I'll check my notes. So add code that checks the etag sent by the browser. If the supplied etag matches the etag for the app HTML, then return 304. But where am I sending the etag? Did I say up there? Anyway, it's going to look like that. Let's do this. Well, we need this function. It's, I think this is right. I think that's what I did, but I don't see it in the web page. I don't think I have anything like that. I got to go back and check that. So, but we need to, when this request comes in, we need to check to see if the, something like if the etag.
Sorry, so where's data? Where's that come from?
This, that's what we read in HTML.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's just that hasn't been assigned to the same file. That was assigned to
Yeah.
a data element from some other file, right?
I'm going to call it body. No, it was. It's this argument that it's the callback. So we said read this file app.html, and once after you finish reading it, give it to us and call it data.
Okay, so it's reading from some other file. Okay, got it.
It's reading this file.
It's like a file.
That's the file that we have to return. The
Right.
client collects to us.
It's a file, like a file extraction. Gotcha.
I just confusing. I'm a little worried about time, so
That's okay. I understand.
I hate to.
That's
I don't want to create confusion. Please stop me when I slow me up here. And this is an init method. So when the server starts up, we're going to call this from the initialization code in main. And all this does is it says, oh, I got to read in that file, because when the request comes in, when a root request, when we send in that request, that's a root request. So there's nothing there. You just, that was it, right? So that's called a root request. I call it a root request. And so we want to send it the contents of that file. So we need to read it in there. So we call this read file function. It's an asynchronous call, so we have to pass in this callback. And we check to see if there's an error, like maybe the file doesn't exist. But if there's no error, we skip past that and then say, oh, well then this argument here is going to point to the data. It's going to point to the characters that you just read in from that file. And we just rename that pointer. We store it up here, body. And but now that we have the data, we can generate the etag. So this is done in initialization when the server first starts up, because we're not going to change app.html. We're going to read it in. It's going to stay the same. We'd have to restart the server. We have to shut down the server, change app.html, start the server again. But then we're going to regenerate the etag. So, and then now, when the request comes in, this is a server initialization. So that process is done. Now this is the request handler. When a request for this root resource comes in, when a request for this web page comes in, we're going to look at the etag. We're going to say, is this etag equal to the etag? The etag that the browser is sending me, is it equal to the etag that I have? If it is, then we're going to send a 304 response. Otherwise, we're going to send our normal response, which is to send all the data, and we're going to send the etag for the browser to cache that. Let's see, I'm not sure where that's going to go yet. Maybe it's going to go on the outside. Do you see that? If the etag coming in matches the etag I have, it means the browser's telling me it's got a version of this file that it needs. So the cache version is good enough. So I'm going to send this 304 not modified response. And then I don't send any extra data. I just send the headers. Here, the etag didn't match, or it was missing. So I got to send the data. Oh, so that has to be down. That's why this has got to come in here. That needs to go in there. That's where we send the data. And we want to send it the new etag as well. Let me check that instructions there. Just make sure I got that right. And well, this is the not modified response, so I'm going to put that in here. This is we're just going to call this reply not modified function. Just call that right there. And what does that do? It writes a header, a 304 header, and that's the end. That's enough. It just sends that as, and Node will add a few extra headers like the date and the time, all that stuff. So I just need to verify that this is the right syntax. And look, and this is not correct. This is the form we want to take. See, this is the etag is not a field in this request object. It's a field inside this headers object. So the request object has an array or another object called headers. So the request object has a property called headers, and all of the headers that were sent to us from the browser are in there. And we check to see if it has this header. If none match, and we compare it to, it'll return the value for that header, which will be the etag. Remember the, where is it? Where did I have that? Oh yeah, here it is. So this is the header. See, this header becomes an element in this array or in this.
Index, like an index.
Yeah.
And then that would be the data.
That's the data part. Yeah, it's a name value pair. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. It's an index. It's like it's a JavaScript object. We're just looking it up by the name, and then we get the value back. So if this header may not exist, in that case this will resolve to undefined. But of course, undefined will not equal etag, so that'll also be false. So we're okay if the browser doesn't set that header. We're okay. And now, so where do I say? Modify your applications. This is right. See, I'm making it a little tricky for people. I don't give all the code. Right? I don't want to give all the code, but I'm giving it in this presentation. Modify your application so that etags are also sent with your image. That's what I'm doing here. See? But I need to verify that that's the right string. I don't yet know that that's the right string. It's just a node. Oh, with your image. The etags are sent with your image. Where do I say you should send the etag with the request? Did I say that anywhere? Add code that checks. Maybe I'm missing that from the instructions. And let me read this later because I'm running out of time. But now that header is going to be pretty straightforward. It just looks like that, uppercase E, uppercase T. I think it's case insensitive, so I think I got it right. And we'll test it now. I think that's all we need to do. Let's see if that works. It's not what we need to do. So 72. I'm already running the server actually. So line 72. So no, it's just running at the same time. All right, so let's send this off. Here we go. This is our old request headers. There's no etag in there. I'm going to request it again. And where's the etag? Not there. I didn't send it. Oh, I'm sorry, it should be a response header. I'm not thinking straight. Here's our etag right there. See it? And so caching is working. So what happens when we send an X request? Look at that. Oh, internal server error. Cannot call method right head of undefined. So this is failing. Right head. Oh, response is undefined. What's going on? Why is response undefined? And anybody see that? So why is response undefined? So this is where we get the request here, and we pass the response object in there. And it's coming up undefined. Why would that come up undefined? Cannot call method right head of undefined. Why is that undefined? Right, we're gonna having troubles. It's still failing. Console is not defined. Oh, that's easy to fix. Console. So there we go. That's all right. And this prints this. This here is what you can't see. This is the response object. We're just dumping it out. Now, if I send in another request, it says undefined. Cannot call right head of undefined. Did I spell it wrong? R-E-S? Huh? It didn't. It printed out this stuff, right? Oh, wait a minute. No, that's not it. What do you think? Why is this undefined right head? Here, this is not undefined here, right? Oh! I forgot to pass in the response. I've been looking at the wrong code. We're not getting down to here. We're calling reply not modified, and we forgot to pass in the response object. All right, now that's just getting passed in. So this was the problem, was that line, not this line down here. It wasn't that one. That was, all right, so we're gonna get that fixed. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, there's the get. Ready? And then we have the etag here. And when we send a second request, 304, success. Look at that. 304, not modified. See, the browser sent us this, if none match. See that? The browser sent us back our etag in a header, in the if none match header. And we found that. We found that in the code right here. We went in there, we said, well, let me look at the value for the if none match header. So this lookup right here inside this JavaScript object called request headers, that lookup returns that string here. And that's what we compared with our etag. And of course, we sent it a moment ago, so that matched. So that's working. Now, it seemed funny when I shut down the server and started it up again. It should be cached. So when I hit refresh here, I should get the same 304, right? Because the etag would not have changed. Yeah, good. It's working. It's working. So we got that far. Now what do we do? We should also do the same process with the image. See, so we want to do the same thing with the image handler. So we don't want to have to resend the image all the time. We want to check for the etag here as well. So I'm going to let you guys do that. It's pretty much the same thing. But there's something that I think you ought to do, and that is make a new file. What did I call it here? And make a new file, and I suggested response.js. Yeah, this is the whole different kind of like utility functions that are used across all the different handlers that are related to the handling, modifying the response. Actually, let me do this. Let me do it like this. And I'm going to, oops, I'm going to edit the root. And I'll just take a bunch of lines there. Paste it in there. So here's a module called response.js. And we're going to export some functions. So the generate etag function, we're going to export that. See that? We have our require already in there, so don't worry about that. And we'll do the same thing here. Exports. Reply not modified equals this function. You should put a semicolon here. And does this require, this doesn't need any modules, so this is set. That's probably good enough. And then here we can require that. We'll call that, let's call that generate etag, and that'll be, we require response module. We need // and we want this function from within it. And then we'll do the same thing with the reply not modified, right? There's different ways of doing this. I'm just showing one way. So maybe a little hard to read. I see Node programmers do this a lot. They like to line things up. And so we don't have to, I'm not going to store reference to the response module. I just want a direct reference to these two functions so that I can call them directly. So now all I have to do is delete that stuff, and then I can call the functions here. That's one, reply not modified. The other one is down here, generate etag. And do I need this HTTP header? What am I using that for? I don't even use that, do I? Don't even need that. So that violates the cleanliness criterion. Yeah. So right, take that out. So let's see. Let's test that change. See if that still works. It is. It's working. Look at that. Now watch this. We're going to edit app.html, and I'm just going to add a space. Think that'll change the etag?
With a space?
Yeah, anything. The tiniest little change is going to. That's a secure hash function. It's a different sequence of bytes. It's going to generate a new etag. Everything counts.
And of course, this is an obvious statement, but of course, ASCII still applies.
Huh?
ASCII still applies. As in the ASCII code, you could reference characters by simple integers, data types.
Yeah, but these aren't. This will be in a different encoding. It won't be in ASCII. Well, maybe it will, because UTF-8, all the characters are ASCII characters, so it's true. It'll be single bytes. So now when I hit refresh, what's it going to say? Is it going to say 304 not modified? Is it going to say 200 OK, or is it going to say something else? Huh? 200. And it's going to give us a new etag. Look at our old etag. The old etag ends with 1358, okay? 1358. Now I'm going to request it again. There's the 200. And it gives us a new etag. Oh, it's the same one? Maybe a different part of it is different.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I thought the last digits would change, but no, it's something else in there. But anyway, it worked. It was a 200. See? And if we request again, it'll be, it's working. And so, what? Oh.
If it's not managed.
Yeah. It sent us the old one. And so our response header had the new one in it, right? Okay. So I had that wrong. That's good. So it is a completely different number, right? It's not matching at all. When we put one space in the file, we get a totally different string. All right. So what else do we need to do here? Turn caching off. And, some systems aggressively cache. And even when you tell them, don't cache it, I don't send an etag, I don't do anything, they might end up caching it. And Safari was, at one point, under iOS 6, Safari browser was caching very aggressively, and it was breaking people's systems. And you can read about it on Stack Overflow. This is the link to Stack Overflow. People discovering that Safari on iOS 6 was caching too much. Because you can tell the browser not to cache. You can go cache control, no cache. Pragma, no cache. You can add these things. You're telling the browser, don't cache it. And Safari, go right ahead and just ignore that, and we'll cache it anyway. That's what was happening. I don't know what it's doing these days, but that was happening. And so a simple way to defeat that caching, aggressive caching mechanism is to tack on to your request message some random value. Oh, by the way, it wasn't just caching responses to get messages. It was caching responses to post messages. Can you believe it? So people that were using Ajax to get data using a post message, those systems were malfunctioning under Safari on iOS 6. And was absolutely shocking to developers that Safari would cache the result of a post message. So one way to work around that, and we're sending a post message, I think, and is to throw in this just some random data that the server's going to end up ignoring. So we're going to add that on there. So let's see if we can do that.
Why do you think they were so aggressive with caching?
They're trying to improve the speed of the browser.
So they really just wanted to, I guess, take the easy way out and to have
Well,
the appearance for the user way out.
Well, I mean, I don't know the real reason, but I'm going to guess. Hypothesis. One hypothesis is they want as fast a browser experience as possible. The other possibility is they want to throw a monkey wrench into browser-based apps because it takes people away from the App Store purchases. And so more companies can sell directly through the web rather than having to go to the App Store.
No, that's an aggressive hypothesis.
Yeah, well, that's the real. I always thought that was the real
case. They're trying
case.
to basically beat in a sneaky way, sort of sneaky way, beat the competition of web applications.
Yeah.
Keep people more addicted to desktop applications, or maybe
No, keep people addicted to the App Store. The only way you're going to get the thing to work right is to buy it through the App Store.
Oh,
Yeah, and they're going to take out their cut when they sell through the App Store. But if you can sign up for service through your browser without going through the App Store, Apple doesn't get any money. So is that the real reason? I don't know.
I always like to suspect. Can't help but suspect that.
But so you guys want me to show you how to do this?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead and do that. We're going to use this math random function in the query string. But we have to do that in the HTML. So when we create the request object, the request string, here it is. We could put it in right there, or we could tag it in directly inside here. So I don't know where we want to put it. Oh, this is a GET request as well, isn't it? Look at that. So we could have changed that to post. But let's do it. We could put it here. We could just stick it right there. What did I do? I put a plus there. Is that how you concatenate in JavaScript? I think it is, right? Oops, not that. Yeah, that's concatenation, string concatenation. So we're going to concatenate this question mark x equals, and then we're going to throw in a random number. Let's see if that works. Oh, by the way, this is a different issue. This is not the etag issue. And there it is. You guys are near the end. We got 4 minutes, so hang in there. I need to make concluding remarks, otherwise it won't work. So we don't need this anymore. I better turn that off so I can remember that. It's this request. Oh. Request for this. Oh, so we need to do this. We got to fix that. This is good. I'll keep that open. We need to fix the way this code works right here. If URL, we want just to see if it matches this far. So we could do something like, is there a substring function? Is it substring? Is that what it is? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if we take 8 characters off the URL, is that right? I think that's, I'm going to just test it. Because what we want to do is we want to omit that question mark. X equals like that, right? So I think that's going to do it. Let me test it without looking it up. Let's see if that works. Now I don't need to refresh this because it's just sending that request. Ah, see, it worked.
Fix it.
Got it? Got that? All right, so this is, there we go. Oh, it's not found. It's not working. Oh, that was the old one, right? Let me see. Hold on. Send that. Hello, Jason. Right, there it is. That's the request there. See that? And so it's not not caching. But we did say, we are saying to, I don't know why that's in the request headers, but that's working. So now when we look at that string there, see, 0.299406, it's a different string. So it thinks it's a different request because it's a different URL.
So it doesn't cache it.
So it won't cache
So
it.
it won't cache it. Wow, it's another. So how long do you think it's going to take for, I don't know, some certain individuals to figure out how to get around that and realize
Well,
it's
I mean,
the same request?
This node has been out there for a while, and
So
I don't know.
Able to find a way to be like, oh no, that's the same request. We're going to cache it now.
Oh, I see what you mean, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
They're going to
So
try
like,
to.
Basically, they'll finally see it like, okay, wait a second. Oh, that's just a random integer, but everything else is the same. And they find an algorithm to just now start caching.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them. Yeah.
One upmanship.
Now, I want to say that my solution I presented to you is not yet complete. Okay.
Yep.
Now pay attention to this because I did not do this file here. This is this you have to add the etag in there, right? Everything else is pretty much done, I believe. Is that right? Did I do everything? Yeah.
Just fix the image.